Diverse founders continue to face significant challenges when raising capital to grow and scale their companies. Many VC firms are talking about funding diverse founders, right? Our guest's new VC fund is actually doing that. And not just with investment, but with structured mentorship too. Get ready to grab some capital raising gems today, everyone, on the Startup Life Live Show. Let's glow. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Life Live Show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, I now share founders' startup stories to help newly minted business owners find the solutions and inspiration they need to succeed. So thank you for carving out time to tune in and up your founder game, because amazing aha moments can happen during the Startup Life Live Show. A new resource or a tool, or just a deeper understanding of how you could do something better with your own startup can happen. If you're joining us live today, please share a yoo-hoo in the comments. Let us know where you're hanging from. And if you're watching the replay, please share #replay in the comment thread so I can swing by and give you a big hug. All right. And if you like the founder stories and gems you're hearing today, please share this link right here, this video, with your community or on your feed. And thank you for sharing your love on this video right now, wherever you're watching, because we go live on LinkedIn and Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Periscope. So thank you for that. And if you're tuning in from YouTube, please share your subscribe, love, and click on the bell icon for alerts. Thank you so much. And hey, guess what? This is the 80th episode of the Startup Life Live Show. Excuse me, I'm just going to give myself a few claps. Woo! And thank you for tuning in and sharing the excitement of this episode. Now, speaking of excitement, I want to share with you our guest. Special, impromptu, last minute, filling in for Shyla. We'll get into the details. And it's the one and only Stephanie Diaz. And she is from Diaz, and she is a partner at Zane Venture Fund and chair of the board for Zane Access, 2 organizations founded to address the $4 trillion opportunity largely untapped, diverse teams bring to venture. And Stephanie raises capital, screens deal flow, and oversees programming for early-stage tech startups. And with 15 years of experience spanning marketing, entrepreneurship, and investor relations, Stephanie is a beloved mentor and advisor in the Atlanta tech startup ecosystem, and she runs the Women Only Experience, one of Atlanta's most dynamic and diverse organizations for female founders. I'm telling you, we are going to be mining some serious gems today on Capital Raise. I'm so excited to welcome to the room Stephanie Diaz.
Thank you so much, Ande. I love your energy. I'm really excited to be here and appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for joining. So, folks, I mean, Stephanie is I'm a huge fan of Stephanie in the world. I love how she vibes out there and supports the startup ecosystem. And she is a partner at Zane Venture. So when Shyla, who of course I booked like 6-8 weeks ago to be on the show, learned that her fund was going to be closing this week, she said, she made the right decision. General partner of the fund. She knew exactly what to do. She said, Stephanie, you got to sit in for me. She was needed for her business. Okay, so I want all the founders to take that in and know that that's what you do in a leadership position. And you've got your team there for a reason, right, Stephanie?
Absolutely. Team has definitely been a huge part of my journey. And honestly, I have to say, Shyla, when it comes to human capital and building a team and then delegating to that team, I know I'm learning a lot from her, and I love watching her in action, and I love being a team member with her. So.
Isn't it wonderful to have great role models in our lives that we can just up our own game with? Oh, it's so great. Always. So folks, you know how we like to vibe here on the Startup Life Live Show. If you're a founder, please amplify your brand. Share your business name, one-liner, and website URL in the comments, and we will showcase. And I got the clappers here for a reason.
I had a feeling those were coming back.
So we can highlight, amplify, and share what you're doing. And I always say share the one-liner because sometimes, Stephanie, the business name doesn't always leaves me going, what is that doing, huh? You don't always know. So thank you for
I couldn't
doing
agree more.
that. Exactly. Another thing, Stephanie, if you don't mind for a second, I want to share when I was doing my research on the wonderful Shyla, your general partner,
Yeah.
I found out why she named the business. So please bear with me, everybody, because why she named Zane is so important and so inspirational. I'm just going to take a minute here to read this, okay? But while I do, I'm going to put up this wonderful picture. Oh my gosh, it's what a precious treasure. So Shyla wanted the fund's namesake to be a strong woman and knew she didn't need to look further than her own daughter. Oh, I get all choked up. When Shyla was considering halting fundraising in the early stages of the fund, Zane was the person who told her to not quit. And she will tell you her daughter Zane embodies everything Zane Venture Fund stands for: perseverance, tenacity, and a willingness to help others. And as a bisexual woman of color, Zane is proud of her mother for starting a fund that supports diverse founders and inclusivity, and never hesitates to lift her mother up and push for the success of Zane Venture Fund. Her mantra has always been, anything is possible. You can do it. Don't quit. Okay, so I just do a little tissue for that. That's really beautiful, Stephanie.
Yes. Well, I think, we're all mothers, you and I, Shyla. And I mean, we gain so much of our inspiration and our motivation through our children. That is for sure. It's like you access another level of tenacity, that mother bear energy. And
That's
so
right.
it's no surprise. And
Well,
we just loved it.
and
The
what's
generational wealth is so much a part
yes.
of the mission here. It just all comes together around that
That
name.
that is so beautiful. And there's nothing better than when your children mirror back to you. So, for her to say to her mom, don't give up. I am sure Shyla has said to her in the past, don't give up and,
Mm-hmm.
focus on that. So I love that. Hey, Melissa Lorenzo Hervé, how are you? Melissa owns an incredible clothing brand. I mean, she's an attorney,
Oh,
but she also has a beautiful clothing brand called Pirouette NYC. It's so you can be dressed for work and for fun after work at the same
I
time.
can't wait to check it out,
It's
Melissa.
really great. And we have Jimmy's Journey, naturallynoahs.com, chef, personal and family health led mission to make plant-based food marketplace. Yay,
Love it.
Jimmy. Thank you for sharing that. And Blue Maestro, you have been rocking it. I have to tell you, they have this incredible sensor. So it's Blue Maestro, everybody, and they design and manufacture Bluetooth sensors and data loggers. Go to bluemaestro.com to learn more. Phenomenal Internet of Things business.
We love it.
So, Stephanie, where are you hailing from today?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. So before we dive into Zane's Venture, Zane Venture's launch story, let's find a little bit about you. I'd love to know how you became involved with the Atlanta startup ecosystem, and what was it about tech startups and female founders that lit your heart on fire?
It is a fun journey. So it goes back coming out of my MBA. I had the good fortune to land within a startup, actually in the pharmaceutical industry though, and it was the best experience I could have had. Over 4 years, we grew that company to over 100 million in annual revenue. I was reporting right into the owner, and he was really grooming me on all of the strategy. And as you know, in a startup, I mean, we wear many hats. So I was primarily in sales and marketing, analytics and research. But I was also a part of operations and legal and finance. At one point, the accounts receivable group was reporting to me. And so I wore many hats in that situation. It gave me a lot of experience, and it gave me a lot of confidence about running my own business one day, which is something I knew that I wanted to do. I wasn't quite sure, though, what my voice was going to be in the world.
Sure.
And it wasn't too far after. And when I became a mom, and I was rocking this young boy in my arms. And I said, I really need to figure this out sooner rather than later, because I knew that I wanted my life and my career to be an example for my son. So fast forward a couple of years, it's 2014, 15. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, getting really inspired. And I start to get this idea that a podcast might be part of my own career reinvention. And so 2015, I launched a show called Mastermind Your Launch. I was really into this concept of masterminds, like people coming together and brainstorming, because I felt like, I had these people around me, but we never asked each other, like, what are your career ambitions and what do you want? Like, it was just so, it was so eye-opening. Like, we should take our conversations there. It shouldn't just be a wine night. It should be a brainstorm. Like, let's figure all of this out. So that is what led me to Tech Startup. I was interviewing business owners at first, and then through my networking, I heard, oh, you should go to this innovation center, or you should go to the startup village, and they have really amazing, entrepreneurs there. And so I did. And then before I knew it, I was interviewing venture capitalists on the show, and I was just right in the middle of it. And having that platform was a huge blessing. Getting introduced to the ecosystem, especially here in Atlanta, was a huge blessing. And I just, kept showing up. I started doing consulting and hosting events for entrepreneurs, which evolved into a female-focused initiative that is WOA today. Yeah. I did a lot of public speaking, still do. And it was actually through a speaking engagement, I got connected to the CEO of a local fintech company and was invited to join the team as chief of staff and head of investor relations. And that's really where I got a front row, I got a seat at the table, so to speak, when it comes to, raising capital. At the same time, via that same CEO, I was connected to a local angel investor group and started doing the screening and due diligence for that angel investor group. So it was amazing. Like, I'm on both sides of the table now. I'm raising capital, and then I'm also vetting deals. And it was just this, amazing, intense time, learning so much. I came out of that experience, and shortly thereafter, I joined Zane as an advisor, kind of doing my own thing, consulting, still running WOA, and then advising Zane. And then it was late 2020 when I was invited to become a partner. Shyla and I had already been through several different events together. We already know we work well together. Let's do this. And I was thrilled to join.
I was so curious as to how did you meet Shyla? When did you first meet her? While you were building this thing that's clearly in alignment with your skill set and something that you love. It clearly lights you up. How did you meet Shyla?
Yeah, she was on a panel for a Latinx, startup event. And she mentioned that she's, her father's Puerto Rican. Both my parents are Puerto Rican. So I'm like, I need to meet this woman. So I just walked up to her right after the event. And then, we connected. Shortly thereafter, we're on the phone. And it wasn't long after that I became an advisor for Zane.
That's so much fun. I love that. And, especially when you had already built a relationship with Shyla. So you already knew that you two had similar goals and passions and convictions and commitments to helping the local and regional startup community, the diverse local and regional startup community. That's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit more now about Zane. I mean, what called Shyla and what compelled her? Because folks, yes, I admit all my 4 businesses showed up like stray cats at the door, yowling until I let them in. All right. But most of us are really called and pulled to do something, solve a problem, et cetera. What compelled Shyla? Because this raising capital and then investing it, this is a big initiative and a big responsibility. It's not an easy journey by any stretch of the imagination. No. Especially folks, when you don't pattern match. All right. And coming from the home, Boston is the home of venture capital. I'm pretty clear what pattern matching can do to prevent folks from getting funded. All right, back to you. What compelled her?
I love this story. So Shyla had, recently gone out on her own to do her own thing. So she was an entrepreneur, and during that time, she was approached by a company that's building a platform in Africa, needed help sourcing investors, and she says, "Yeah, I can do that." And so she started, going out, connecting with investors, and getting a lay of the land of the investor space. And throughout this process, she definitely came face to face with the inequities in the capital space, but she also had a lot of success. She was able to get this company to a letter of intent with actually up to, I believe it was $100 million in additional funding. And so I know,
That's
right?
a
She did it.
big ticket.
So, and this is kind of her first time out of the gate. She made all of these connections. And even though that deal eventually fell through, she had still taken it like all, pretty much all the way there. Yeah. And it was really from there that, she saw the inequities, but she also saw what she was able to do. And she knew that she could do something to help move the needle. During this time too, she had also met with several, of Atlanta's most prominent investors, and one of those being Sig Mosley. And Sig Mosley, if you're not familiar, I mean, he's been dubbed the godfather of angel investing. Yeah. He's still the record holder for the largest venture deal in the Southeast to date, and just so an incredible mentor. And Shyla, when I mentioned she builds, she just attracts people and builds a team, she was able to have Sig like mentor her throughout this entire process, and he continued to mentor her. And so it was Sig that she went to, and she said, I'm thinking about launching a fund. And I love this part of the story. He said to her, it's not impossible, but it's going to be a challenge. And for her, that was like, all right, I'm doing it, like, okay, that's the green light. Because, for us, like, all of our life has been a challenge, so that part doesn't scare us. If you're telling me there's like a little bit of a chance, I'm going to find that way. And that was Shyla's energy. Later on, she invited Sig to come on as a venture partner, which he did, and and being part of the team. And so, I feel like what Shyla and what Zane, bring to the table is she's had this ability to have this success in an industry that is not built for her, that's not built for many of us. And that is her gift to turn around and share with other underrepresented founders.
Okay, so I'm having a... Oh, that is so beautiful. Okay, founders, you're pulling this in right here. I mean, first of all, for Shyla to just have that first experience, even though the fund did not completely, or her raise didn't go through, she had that experience. Then she gets mentored. And I'm telling you, folks, don't judge who your mentor is, okay? If you see Sig, you'll get that. All right. He wanted to help. He was not about barriers. He was about opportunities. And Shyla did the right thing, finding someone to have champion her and show her where that little sliver of white space was, in that lane of crowdedness. Here's a little path, clear path right there for her to go in and say, okay, that's enough of an incentive of the possibility versus the guarantee that she needed. And then, invited Sig on board and started pulling things together. And you're right. You said this earlier too, Stephanie. Shyla has this unique ability to connect dots, connect people, connect ideas. And that is the sign, of course, and the ingredients for a great leader, right?
Absolutely. I mean, so much of startup life, whether you're starting up a fund or starting up a business, it is about the team around you, because there gets to be a point where you just cannot do it all yourself. So the earlier you lean into that and start building the resources around you, the better.
Great, great, great. And I just love that quote from Shyla right there. And she knew that there were plenty of opportunities out there to fund that weren't the typical pattern matching. And so let's talk a little bit about, like any business, you have to prove your value prop. And Stephanie, this is something I talk about all the time with founders, because this is what makes it or breaks it for you guys. You have to prove that the marketplace wants what you're providing. And when you're raising capital for a fund, you've got to take care on one side of the people who are investing in your fund. And then you got to take care of making the best decisions with the money. And at the same time, you had, a specific initiative, right, with the Zane. And so talk a little bit about how the Zane team tested its hypothesis that folks would invest in the Zane fund, but also given all the VC funds in the marketplace today, what makes Zane unique, gives them that unfair advantage, and how are you providing the investor fund market and improving the investor fund market wants to play and wants what Zane Venture plans to deliver? I know that's I ask long questions, but I know you got this.
I know, this ain't my first rodeo.
Right.
So, when it comes, the first one, when Shyla realized that she wanted to start a fund, she didn't start the fund right away. She started researching. She started, took a year to really research the investor space and also the hypothesis around, what's the lay of the land when it comes to underrepresented founders in startup and what's happening. And so that, provided a lot of data and also personal experience for her to realize that, yes, this was a worthwhile cause. Now, we've been refining the thesis all along the way and really drilling down because, diversity is a big, it's a word that encompasses many things. And then when you take it down to the investor, the investor level, like, how are you investing in diverse funds? How are you measuring diversity within startups? We've definitely done a lot of work around, how we actually, measure diversity. And for us, we've dedicated that at least 80% of our portfolio is going to companies where at least 51% of the founding team, it identifies as, an underrepresented minority. And then the remaining 20% of the portfolio will go towards companies that have at least one founder on the team represented as an underrepresented minority. So that's, diving a little bit more into the specifics there.
But, and then, and while we're chatting about that, let's bring up, do you know Allison Byers? Have you met her? She's the founder of Scroobius, right?
She's definitely, yes, an ally of Zane for sure.
Absolutely. So Allison, everyone is saying, such a huge fan of Shyla and Zane Venture Fund. Amazing inspiration capital for emerging investors. Absolutely, for the rising majority that's happening. And folks, just so you know, right here, I'm just going to do a plug for Scroobius. Allison and Scroobius help you create an amazing pitch deck. All right. It's a video pitch plan. You really need, I keep this up all the time because I love sharing it. Go take advantage of this. If you're raising capital, nobody understands it better than Allison, and she can help you have a winning pitch it plan. Whoops,
I love it.
Yeah. Isn't that great? And so, and I understand, Shyla certainly had built up her reputation in the community. How did she raise the fund though? How did she pull the money? Did she get it from institutional, individual investors, LLCs? How did that all come together for her and you and the team?
Yeah, well, we're still raising the fund right now. So in process, and it is a mix of institutional and, and individual. And, we're excited that we've gained momentum on both sides. You kind of have to see who's aligned. And that's definitely been part of our journey, is realizing, what investors are really aligned with, with our mission, with our thesis, and are really excited to, to come to the table and support the work that we're doing. And we're really excited to be closing in on the initial close of that.
Well, and I heard the great news yesterday, because Bank of America is putting money into funds like yours who are committed to the diverse space. So that
was a big moment for us. I'll never forget that day, the very first call we had with them. It's been such a journey, and it's important. I've said before, why Zane exists is because when you talk about pattern matching and the fact that, female investors are more likely to invest in female founders, investors of color are more likely to invest in founders of color. And so, that's part of what Zane is bringing, in the venture capital space is being that safe space for founders to come, and it's just a completely different dynamic than what they've experienced in the past. But there has to be other people on the side of the table for us too.
That's
emerging
right.
fund managers, diverse fund managers. And so it really is no small thing that an organization like Bank of America would come on board, and we're thrilled for their
Especially for a
partnership.
young fund like yours. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's phenomenal. And I put this stat, folks, because you got to really take this in. Diverse founding teams generate 30% higher returns to investors. And that's not just a stat from any old organization. That's
You see it over and over again.
The Kauffman Fellow Research Center. Now, the Kauffman Entrepreneurship Center is one of the best known for tracking data in the startup and entrepreneurship ecosystem. So that's a good number. So it makes it even more attractive to go this route, which I love. And congratulations on that. And so also, which I really found fascinating, was that you added, and let me just pull this up, folks, right here, the Zane Access. So talk about this, because this is really important for how I believe your success is going to happen, Stephanie.
Thank you. Yeah. So our motto with Zane Access is no founder left behind.
Oh.
And we're thrilled about the impact we'll be able to make with Zane Venture Fund. But the truth is, there's only a certain number of companies that we can fund through that. And there's so much more work to be done. And Zane Access is really our answer to that. When it comes to connecting entrepreneurs to the network they need to raise capital, to just the lay of the land, just the understanding of the capital raising process, and letting them know that they are welcome here, and giving them the tools and the network they need to succeed. That's what Zane Access is all about. We have a three-pronged approach: programming, content, and events. We're in the process right now of, we're in week 7 of our capital readiness cohort. We just announced our graduation ceremony that's happening on June 10th. We're thrilled to have Henri Pierre-Jacques of Harlem Capital, yes, as a keynote speaker. We'll be featuring a showcase of 22 companies that have gone through this program. And there is a lot from Zane Access that is yet to come. So we're thrilled for the continued impact that we can have there.
Hop on the website, folks, zane.vc, and get on the newsletter. I registered the minute I saw that come across the wire, that you're going to have the cohort celebration, graduation celebration. First of all, it's just so great to celebrate, right? The founders going through something like that.
Yes.
And then, of course, we love Harlem Capital, and what a great keynote speaker that you're all going to have. So how do you, with Zane Access, this is a wonderful addition to how you are presenting in the world and taking care of founders. What's the criteria that when folks apply, how does that work?
Yeah, so for the capital readiness cohort, for example, we say, an underrepresented founder who is yet to raise their first 150K. I will say, Zane Venture Fund is focused primarily on the Southeast, whereas Zane Access is, open. We have companies from across the country that are participating in the cohort right now, and not just tech companies. We have consumer-facing products as well. It really runs the gamut, but scalable companies where venture actually, makes sense for them. What we love about the capital readiness cohort, in particular, where we love to invite people on, is when they have some product market fit and they really are ready to raise capital in the near term. We have several companies that are actively raising capital, talking to angels and VCs right now. And so for them to have our support right now and get to bounce questions off of us while they're in it is really, really powerful. We do live sessions. I had a 2-hour session last night with the cohort, and we had an amazing speaker. Jess Lee of Sequoia Capital was on there. And I mean, she's just, a Q&A, giving her email address, like, y'all contact me, here I am. And then the second hour we did pitches where they come up, practice, and it's not just me giving feedback, but it's also, their fellow cohort members, and it's just an amazing, amazing community. And I'm thrilled, and I can't wait for the graduation.
I know. And also founders, I mean, seriously, nothing prepares you for this journey. So you're in it and you got to up your game. And one of the ways you up your game is to join a cohort like this and get accepted into it. So be sure to, again, visit the website, apply to these kind of opportunities, because as you pitch, you get great feedback. I host a monthly pitch event here in Boston. We always have a great expert from, in the investor community. They do great questions. The audience always gives great questions. And in this case, you get to build relationships with people who understand uniquely what you're going through. So you can turn to them instead of your family who's watching you like, a train wreck's about to happen, because they're not cut out for entrepreneurship. It's best that I always say, it's best just to not share with them. Let them cheer you on, and that's it. And take your woes to people who understand. So what a wonderful benefit for everyone that you have there. Thank you for that. And so what have you seen as you start to prepare with this fund? Are you starting to line up some companies that you think would be a good fit? What are you looking for? Does everybody have to be in tech, or can they be in other industries? What's important to you?
That's a great question. So for the fund, we are looking at tech-enabled companies. Our thesis is around the diversity that I mentioned, and as well as tech, and then also in the Southeast. We're very adamant that there's so much talent right here in the Southeast. We've got amazing ecosystems, and not just Atlanta, Miami, Birmingham, Chattanooga, Nashville have some thriving ecosystems that we're really excited to tap into. What I'm seeing is that there is no shortage of deal flow pipeline when it comes to amazing companies building amazing founders building incredible companies here in the Southeast in tech. If anything, I wish that we were farther along on our capital raise journey ourselves so that we could deploy to even more of them. But really thrilled. I manage the deal flow, and I get to meet with so many founders each week to talk about what they've created, the opportunity that they've created for investors like us, and I'm just really optimistic about what we're going to be seeing in the next few years.
Hey, and thank you for that. I understand your optimism. Of course, I'm in the world here in Boston startup as well as, internationally, but in Boston, it's just like, what? It's just like being in a candy store, for crying out loud. And speaking of Boston founders that are amazing, and a former guest on the Startup Life Live show, Jessica Sannon. Systemic Flow. Oh my gosh, this is a phenomenal platform, everybody. And Jessica is saying that she's happy to be here to learn from Stephanie, which is so wonderful. Systemic Flow starts the education process in elementary school, so that starting to get especially the girls thinking about coding, thinking about science, thinking about tech and math, and all the things that to keep building them up and making them prepare to see themselves in a future that may not have been present for them in the past. So Jessica, I love you and love rocking you, and high bag. Mwah. So what do you see on the horizon for Zane? Like, you'll get this fund wrapped up. I know Shaila's in the middle of it right now, closing left and right to make this happen. Then how long do you think it'll be before the investments start happening and you are complete and may even think about raising a second fund?
Yes, well, we'll be deploying into companies over the next 3 to 4 years. So we're definitely looking to have a portfolio where it's manageable enough that we can really come alongside these companies in a meaningful way. So we're excited to put this capital to work, but at the same time, we're really going to make sure that we're choosing the best companies for us. We say industry agnostic with a few favorites, those being ed tech, fintech, digital health, cybersecurity, supply chain, and IoT. And those are all industries that have a lot of momentum here in the Southeast. They're also industries where our partner team, our investment committee have experience within those industries. So we can offer real world experience and insights into the dynamics that are going on there. And that's important for us because we want to be so much more than a check. When it comes to the companies that we invest in, we really want to be a strategic partner and as hands-on as we can be for the growth of those companies. And so we'll take our time and be intentional about the companies that we bring into the portfolio and put this capital to work. And then, yes, you'll definitely see a fund too.
And what will your average check size be? Will you have a range?
Yeah, that's great. Great question. 100 to 500K. And we're also reserving half of the fund for follow-on investments. We want to be there when someone needs, that additional funding, that bridge getting to Series A.
Okay. And I'm going to just pop this up for a second, everybody. I have a great document, and you can email me too. It is questions that you'll get from investors and questions you need to ask investors. I feel very strongly. And that's one of the questions you need to ask. What's your check size? What's your turnaround time? Things like that. You need to get clarifying understanding of how investors work. And Stephanie, you are a phenomenal spokesperson for Zane. I mean, you are like, boom, 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 boom. I know we've all been like, oh my gosh, one gem, one interesting insight after another. But I think too, especially for the first time founders who are trying to understand how do funds work, can you just shed some insights along how, your responsibility to the fund? So it's not just getting money into your account, founders. It's also they have a responsibility and an agenda. And when you have a better understanding of a fund's agenda, you can have a better understanding of the whole process. So would you be so kind as to share that, Stephanie?
Yeah, happy to. Well, a little bit about the deal flow process. So, if you go to the Zane site, there is, a link where you can pitch to us, fill out an online form, and we will review. And if it matches our thesis, you'll be hearing from us to schedule a pre-screen call. So definitely explore that if it's a fit. But when it comes to the next steps, and I love you mentioned, asking questions. I couldn't agree more. There is a lot of rejection in this capital raising process, but so little of it actually has anything to do with you sometimes. Like there's so many other dynamics happening behind the scenes that you just don't realize. And there are amazing companies that get told no each and every day. And so you but the more you understand about the decision-making process of whether it's an angel investor or a VC investor on the other side, I think just the clearer you'll be in the reasons why and how you can use that feedback to improve and not just improve yourself in terms of how you tell your story, but also we have a better understanding of who you need to be telling that story to and who is not a fit. And so those are a couple of things that I definitely want to share. When it comes to a VC fund, we're building out a portfolio. And so something to keep in mind is that I mentioned the sectors that we are in. We're intentional about those sectors because we can be the best strategic partner in those sectors. So if a company that is a, biomed company comes to us, then it's likely going to be a no because it's not one of our sectors. And so understanding how they invest, what sectors they're interested in is really, really important. Also understanding that they're building out a portfolio. If a VC already has a company very similar to yours and a competing, even a competitor in their portfolio, then they may not be looking to have a competitor in their portfolio. That's also. Right. So understanding how you fit in the organization that they're building is really important. And so doing some of your research on them, asking the right questions during a meeting can really help you understand, if it's a fit and then go from there. I also love the concept of asking questions. We talked about this with Jess Lee last night, and she was talking about some of the investor meetings, initial meetings that have been the most fruitful and have, ultimately ended up in investment. And she mentioned one where she's like, really the first meeting ended up being more of a strategy session. Like we just kind of like rolled up our sleeves and just started working together. And I think that says a lot about this like fit that you're
Right.
looking for
Right.
because it's a commitment, to bring in an investor. It's a long-term relationship. And so it's so much more than a check. You really want to have the right people around.
That's
So
right.
getting that right energy on board is important.
And talk a little bit about your responsibility to the fund in the sense that, again, this is for, first time founders to really understand, they're not just screening you and having conversations with you. They need to stay in touch with the people who have given them money and trusted them to invest it into companies. So, you usually have someone on the team who needs to stay in touch with the investors, set a protocol, whether it's monthly meetings, whatever. Can you just shed a little light for us on how
Yes.
that side of the equation works?
Absolutely. So, we have to report back to our investors how we have invested the capital and how it's growing. And so understanding how a company continues to grow month to month, quarter to quarter, helps us turn around and let our investors know how the fund is growing within the different portfolio companies that we've invested. And so that feedback loop is really important. Also, though, when I mentioned like we want to be hands-on, we want to be that resource. We talked about building a team around you. We become that team, an extension of the team for the startup. And so, we want to be called, obviously want to hear the good news, but we want to hear the bad news too, because the faster we can understand what's going on, the faster we can do something about it and pull those resources together for our founders.
That's terrific. Okay, so I want to bring up an event that's coming up, everybody, that you can go ahead and join. Go check it out. Learn more information. You want to talk a little bit about this, Stephanie?
Well, I love the topic, choosing the right investor. That's essentially what we're talking about right here, is how do you understand who is the right strategic partner for you? And I know we've been through that ourselves, raising this fund. So Shyla's going to have a lot of gems to drop there.
Oh, that's going to be great. So folks, you can go right there, meetfounders.co, get your tickets and get some more insights for your work in the world. And if you have any questions right now for Stephanie, pop them into the comment section. And of course, Stephanie's around. You can put comments in when you're watching the replay. I'll make sure they get answered as well, because I know we're an on-demand world now, and you'll be watching this when the right time is for you. Now, you've done some amazing things. And one of the things that you've done, and I think continue to do, is the women-only experience. Can you talk a little bit about why you launched that and how it serves women founders?
So it's really interesting. My background, women have always been important in my life. I was raised by a single mom. I went to an all-women's college, but yes,
I
it was
have an MBA at
amazing.
an all-women's college, and I'm a huge believer in single gender learning for women. Just saying.
It was transformative.
Yeah.
And then I went out into the workforce, and I was in pharma, and then I was in tech, and male-dominated industries, and that never really fazed me because I was having a lot of success. And I'm like, oh, I can run with the guys. Like I'm obviously doing my thing. And then life happens, and you start to realize, wait a second, I'm not a dude. and I was actually never looked at like one of the guys, I was always different. And I wanted to kind of bring my worlds together, like, can women be as supportive as we are in our personal lives in business? So that was one of the inspirations behind Whoa. I also was in this time in my life where I had felt that because of my journey in these male-dominated industries, I had lost a bit of connection with my feminine side. And if you go to the Whoa website or any of our social media, you'll see a lot of pictures of women dancing, and so Whoa was like my way to carve out a really feminine space. And so it's a networking event. We bring powerful women. Shyla's been a speaker. We've had some amazing speakers. Jasmine Crow of Gooder. and just some phenomenal powerhouses. And then we also go deep in our feminine side. We dance, we do affirmations, and it's just like this place where strong women can also be soft.
Yeah.
The acronym WOE, WOE, is like, woes could be that stumbling block, that challenge. It could be a really down moment. But I'm like, that's also when we're the most raw, we're also the most wide open for growth, transformation. And so it's really just this intuitive experience of business. And that's what it continues to be. It's evolved.
You need to bring it around the country. We need some moments like that here in Boston for sure. I love that.
Boston, we'll do a road show. Yes, it's mostly been in person. Here in Atlanta, we did go virtual, hosted 2 3-day conferences in 2020. And then we'll see how we return here in 2021. But yes, we'll be dancing soon.
That's so good. That's so good. So one thing that happens for founders, right, is, and they feel like, especially the first time, like, oh, I'm feeling so inadequate. That's wrong. Or I don't know what I'm doing. That's wrong. No. This journey is filled with those moments. When have you felt inadequate as a founder and a leader? And how did you shift your mindset?
Woo! When have I not? I mean, like, and the reason I love talking about, well, I actually don't love talking about imposter syndrome. I really don't love that term. But I will say that there's something to be said. The way that I like to flip the script is if I'm in a place where I'm feeling out of my element, I'm feeling like I don't quite have everything I wish I had, to bring to the table in terms of years of experience or whatever it is, then what I like to do is congratulate myself for being the kind of person who puts myself in situations where I'm guaranteed to grow and learn. And that's really all that imposter syndrome is. If we challenge ourselves to flip the script, it's an invitation to growth. It's saying, yeah, you maybe you don't know everything, or you don't have the same experience as that other person, but you're here regardless. So let's, like, what are we going to do with it? Who do you want to be today? So that's part of it. When you challenge yourself, and entrepreneurs, I mean, we move so fast. In 6 months, you could be in a completely different place than you were. We're always going to feel out of our element. And it's funny, I was meeting with a good friend, and we were talking about balancing our chakras. And she said, you need to do yoga poses that help you feel grounded, but that help you feel grounded amid the uncertainty. So like a yoga pose where maybe I have one foot on the ground and the other foot is in the air. She's like, because that's your life. You're never going to feel settled and stable and like this because you are always on to the next thing, growing. And so that's my response to that. You got to just get used to it and congratulate yourself. Okay. So many people feel really safe just staying still. And you're not one. You're not one of those.
No. And listen, everybody, I'm having this moment right now.
I love it.
Stitch that on a pillow. Congratulate yourself. Seriously. You see those memes about, step out of your comfort zone. Founders want to step into the comfort zone. Can we just hang in the comfort zone for a little while? Because
I know. I haven't seen comfort zone in years. But you asked a question. So what do you do? So the community around you is the most important decision that you will ever make when it comes to this part of the journey. And for me, especially when it comes to imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it, there are people around you that when you say, gosh, I don't feel ready, or, they will meet you there. They'll say, maybe you're not, maybe you should do something else, maybe, and they will feed into that. And then there are those people. And if you have even just one in your life, then you are blessed, that see you not only where you're at, but they see you 2-3 steps ahead. And that is what they reflect back to you. They say, stay on your path. You're almost there. If you have one of those people to go to, that is the most important thing. And sometimes you have to be that for yourself, and it's hard, but those people will come alongside you. Keep them close.
Oh, excellent, outstanding advice, Stephanie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And on another personal note, because, entrepreneurship, folks, you never lose when you launch a business. Even if you learn that, I'm more comfortable being an employee, or I'm better as an entrepreneur in a company that has assets that are, so huge that I can do something on a larger scale. It's okay. Never feel shame for having launched a business and it didn't work out and you learned that about yourself. But the journey, no matter what, you might lose some money, you might lose a little time, but it's so made up by what you have learned about yourself. So, Stephanie, what have you learned about yourself, both personally and professionally, on this extraordinary entrepreneurship journey?
I think I've learned a lot of things. Like, how much time do we have? But I've learned to trust myself. And when I think back to a much younger version of myself and how I was dreaming for a more like inspired life, I was dreaming of this energy of expressing myself fully. And back then, this was just like a fuzzy idea in my mind. That's all it was. Like, I was sitting at home watching American Idol in the pharma industry, and and I'm like, but I feel like there's more. And then I just started taking one step after another, and there was more. And I was greeted with so much support, and I learned that I'm good at things, other things that that I've been able to make my career now. And so I think we have to trust ourselves whenever we have that calling. Sometimes it's crystal clear, like, I need to do this. And sometimes it's just an energy. And we see it in other people, like, wow, I love how this person does this, and I love how this person does that. And it's like, oh, continue to follow that. Continue to follow all of those inspirations, because they're guiding you somewhere. And sometimes those trusting yourself means making decisions you never thought you were going to. Like, I never thought I was going to launch a business, or I never thought I was going to invest this much money, in this concept, or I never thought that I would, leave this relationship, or I never thought that I would do these things. But you have to keep trusting yourself and allowing that evolution to unfold. And so what I have learned is that when I get something, even if it's different than where I thought that I was going, I kind of need to still trust it, because it's taking me to even cooler things that I've already experienced.
Okay, the shaman has spoken, everybody. Shaman Stephanie has spoken. That is so powerful. We need another stitch that on a pillow right now, because trust yourself is so huge. And I'm going to say, honestly, it's a challenge many women have. We tend to look outside ourselves for validation, and it's okay. You're growing. You've got to start going, you know what? I can do this. I believe in myself. And I'm trusting that voice inside of me, because that is where the true guidance comes from every day, folks.
Powerful.
Not outside of you, inside of you. So that is so wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on the Startup Life Live show. Do you have any last thoughts for everybody before I pop you in the green room and quickly wrap up?
Oh gosh, I just want to, thank you for watching. I always just love thanking founders for being, for showing up to your own lives and showing up to these industries and claiming the vision that is for you. Zane is proud to support you in any way we can. Zane.vc to learn more about the fund and the resources that we're offering through Zane Access. And thank you, Ande, so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. It has been a phenomenal experience. Thanks, Shyla, for sending you in to fill in for her. And please let her know I'm holding all of the Zane team in my arms and my hearts and thoughts right now. So as you close on your first fund, it's such a momentous occasion. And I'm over the moon excited for everybody at Zane Venture Fund. Thank you. All right, folks, we heard some amazing insights from Stephanie. I could listen to her all day. She's extraordinary. And I loved learning more about Zane, and I know you did too. And we had some great insights along the way of how a venture fund works, especially this specific one. So as Stephanie said, please visit zane.vc, get on the mail list, apply if you're feeling called to do that. So let's talk about who's coming up next on the Startup Life Live Show. And it is this upcoming Tuesday, May 25th at 1 p.m. ET. And it's Elaine Fluker. And she's joining us to share her entrepreneurial journey and her new book, Get Over It, I Got It, where she encourages unapologetically ambitious women to learn how to embrace support, not only for their success, but also their peace of mind. Because, folks, hear me loud and clear here, okay? Working alone does not work. All right. You heard Stephanie talking about all the efforts that the team pulled together has created. So it's so important that you understand that it does not work for you or your business. So be sure to tune in on Tuesday, May 25th at 1 p.m. EST to grab some gems from Elaine. And to do that, one of the best ways to find out whenever I have a new show is to join the meetup group, the Startup Life Live meetup group right here. Scan that QR code and go to bit.ly/Startup Life Live and join the group so you get an alert every time I have a new show. So we were talking about this just a few seconds ago with Stephanie and trusting yourself. So I always like to turn to A.L. Milne's quote, who always remember that you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and you're proving it to yourself. And you are, as we say here in Boston, wicked smarter than you think. So remember that as you go through your journey. Trust yourself, congratulate yourself, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Startup Life Live Show. I'll see you next time. Wishing you a delicious day. Mwah, mwah, mwah. See you soon.